right, so with that being said, I want to say all praises be unto the Most High, Almighty, Ahaya, Shahaya Christ, our Lord and Savior. This is the Essene Community Church of Christ. I am Archbishop Shamar.
And I'm Bishop Barak.
All right, we'll be bringing you today's Sabbath report / lesson. All right, we're going to be going into part 3 of our Monarchy of God, all right, republics. All right, we're going into part 3. All right, so if you missed the last 2 parts, I'd advise you to go and take those parts in, especially the time that we're in right now. Those 2 lessons are integral in getting you up to date in the atmosphere of the world right now when it comes to government, when it comes to the parties, when it comes to where did all this come from and how did we get here. This is the whole point of this Monarchies of God series to kind of guide the people, those who don't know, on how we are at the events today and how government structure got to today, and to show you God is in control of these government structures based on these things, all right, which we showed started from kings and how it's gone to the system we have today, and this system confirms these things, right? So that being said, we're going to go to Isaiah 53, verse 1.
The book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 53, verse 1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed?
All right, so who's going to believe our report? All right, who is the arm of the Lord, the strength of the Lord revealed unto? All right, and many people won't, and even Isaiah in his time had to ask this, because many people aren't going to believe the prophets that the Most High send out, because he doesn't reveal himself in front of the prophets to the people. All right, this is a closed door thing, and he sends them out, and people have to have faith in them and understanding, and this is what brings about these things. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go right into our report for the day, all right, which is Monarchies of God, Divine Right of Kings. And we're going to start at the first republic, all right, the first president of the world. All right, so we probably did this in part 2, but we're just to bring everybody up to speed, we're starting from here so that the message today is clear cut and understood, because this is an important understanding to have. All right, so we're going to the first president. So we went and showed how we move from the Most High setting up kings, all right, and them having dominion and kingdoms and things of that nature. And we see how it kind of started to switch over to people disliking kings, all right? And we're going to now when people are starting to break away from kings and institute what's called, as we see in the world now, presidents, all right? So we're going to go to the first president, because there is a first president. Presidents is very new, all right? This always was kings and kingdoms, and we showed that these kings were ordained by God through a mandate called the mandate of heaven. All right, that mandate of heaven, the ones that are outside the nation, so the heathen nations, or those nations who set up, who had kings, they understood, because the Most High didn't know directly, that the mandate of heaven was governed by the disasters and things. And we went into the wisdom of Solomon to show Solomon talking to the kings about that. All right, that these disasters is what the Most High brought upon these foreign nations speedily, to show them if he's in agreement with the king or not. And they called that the mandate of heaven, to know that this person was anointed by God, given the understanding, and this is who he chooses to rule that dominion. And whenever it was time to change over, overthrow, disaster, something will come upon them. All right, so as we see in the Bible with Pharaoh and various other people, Nebuchadnezzar, this the Most High controlled these things, so he always punished the kings and had them under his control. All right, we gave an example of Moses and Pharaoh, and him that was the Most High showing Moses how much control he has over the kings, that he had to harden Pharaoh's heart. Right, so he controls the whole governing of the kings, and the people understood that, which brought legitimacy, which we showed that legitimacy was coming from the divine right, the understanding that the Most High legitimized this, and this gave them the authority to have the ultimate power, all right, absolute power, and people agree with that. So people start to go away from that, and this is where we're seeing now coming to the first president, all right.
Okay. Filippo Antonio Pascal de Paoli was a Corsican patriot and leader, the president of the Executive Council of the General Diet of the People of Corsica. Paoli designed and wrote the constitution of this first democratic republic of the modern age himself. It was a representative democracy asserting that the elected Diet of Corsican representatives had no master. Paoli held his office by election and not by appointment. It made him commander-in-chief of the armed forces as well as chief magistrate. Paoli's government claimed the same jurisdiction as the Republic of Genoa. In terms of the de facto exercise of power, the Genovese held the coastal cities, which they could defend from their citadels, but the Corsican Republic controlled the rest of the island from Corte, its capital.
All right, so we have Filippo, all right, and he was the Corsican patriot and leader. All right, and this person became the president, all right, of Corsica. Corsica is an island off the coast of France, all right. And with this happening now, all right, Cairo designated and wrote a constitution for the first democratic republic of the modern age himself. So he's the first one to write constitutions under a republic. All right, so we're dealing with republic first. All right, we're not at democracy yet. So he was the first one to now bring in a republic, which is hey, we don't want a king, a monarch. We're going to switch to just a president. All right, and the president doesn't have absolute power. This now renders a lot of power to the other parts of the body. All right, and away from the head. All right, so Corsican made this constitution, and this is the constitution that you see most republics have now. All right, but what we're getting at, that we shouldn't even be at a republic. All right, a republic now is rebellion against the king. So this is what we're showing. So in today's time, we're having Republican and versus Democrats. All right, and we're not hearing monarchy versus Republican versus Democrats. So that's what it should be. All right, and the first one being monarchy is the one that the Most High ordained from the beginning. All right, as Christ is coming under monarchy. That's what he's coming under. He's not coming to be your president. All right, Christ is not going to be president of the world, he's not president. All right, he's king, absolute power, all authority given unto him. All right. So Palilo also held his office by election and not appointment. So once again, appointment is, the Most High anointed this person. He ordained this, all right? He appointed this individual, all right? Now it's switching to election, all right? Which now, this decision is now in the people. So we went and showed, going back to our first monarchy lessons, that the Most High chose individuals in the land that always had a good heart. All right, so he chose David, he chose Solomon. These people always had a certain love for the people. Even Pharaoh, and we showed this example. That's why he had to harden Pharaoh's heart, because Pharaoh had a good heart. His heart wasn't naturally hardened. The Most High came and intervened and hardened his heart to show Moses his control. All right. So the people that the Most High put into place as kings, and he chose, he was always able to go inside of their heart and choose the best individual who has the heart for the job. People can't do that. So they now, with Satan coming in their head and saying, what, maybe you shouldn't choose the person that the Most High elected, and they try to make them seem like tyrants and this and things of that nature. Now it's switching over to the people gonna be the ones elected. All right. And we went into a second group to show that started to happen in Israel as well. All right. Continue for us. So we're going to go to now the first republic called Corsica.
The Corsican Republic was a representative democracy asserting that the elected Diet of Corsican representatives had no master. Paoli held his office by election and not by appointment. It made him commander-in-chief of the armed forces as well as chief magistrate. Paoli's government claimed the same jurisdiction as the Republic of Genoa. In terms of the de facto exercise of power, the Genoese held the coastal cities which they could defend from their citadels, but the Corsican Republic controlled the rest of the islands from Corte, its capital. Following the French conquest of Corsica in 1768, Paoli oversaw the Corsican resistance. Following the defeat of the Corsican forces at the Battle of Ponte Novo, he was forced into exile in Britain, where he was a celebrated figure. He returned after the French Revolution, of which he was initially supportive. He later broke with the revolutionaries and helped to create the Anglo-Corsican Kingdom, which lasted between 1794 and 1796. After the island was reoccupied by France, he again went into exile in Britain, where he died in 1807.
All right, so the Quercetin Republic, all right, was a representative democracy, asserting that the elected diet of the Corsican representatives had no master. So they don't want to be controlled by anybody. This is why people usually go to there, all right, and then they elect the president just to be like, all right, a person who's going to oversee, but that president's power is restricted. So they're not really the head honcho, as you're seeing, all right. We just witnessed president get kicked off of social medias and all of that, all right. So clearly, if he had power that he would enforce this power. But we see how powerless the head of the state is. So if there is a problem in the body, the head can't correct it. All right? And this is where the problem lies. Because, okay, he sees a problem, he's supposed to be able to correct it, but he cannot. All right? This is a major problem where he cannot correct these things. All right? So, now, then we go and see. All right, once again, to show you that he's holding his office by election, all right, and not appointment. All right, and it made him the commander-in-chief as well as magistrate. All right, but we went into the protocols of Zion, and we showed how these presidents, all right, are controlled. All right, they get controlled when they get put in these seats. All right, so they're not really heads of anything. All right. And their power is limited, but they said that they give them the power over the army. So that's why it seems like they have all this power, because the president, we just seen who? President Biden just asked for an airstrike. So it seems like they have this type of power, but if we're going off of the stuff that we've been putting out, we know that their power is limited, because we see, okay, if they're saying that somebody's taking over, this election is a fraud, he can't do anything about that, but they have the power to airstrike someone the right way. They didn't need to go to anybody for that. He didn't need to go to the people with that. He didn't need to talk to the Democrats about that, all right, or Republicans about that, because he's a Democrat. He just said, yo, we gonna fire off and boom, because that's the power we're seeing that we were bringing out, that they gave to the presidents. And this is what the Jewish people in this day and time has been using them for, all right, to go and commit wars and things of that nature. All right, so then we eventually see them reestablish the monarchy, the kingdom, all right, and bring about a revolution, all right, so which ended that empire, and they dealt with the Anglo-Corsican kingdom now, all right, which lasted still didn't last that long, all right, only lasted another 2 years. And we're going to see why all this opposition is going to come against them, or why it's happening, all right? But we're going to go to the definition of kingdom.
It's the definition of kingdom out of the Strong's Hebrew word H4467, mamlaka, from H4427, dominion, that is, abstractly, the estate, rule, or concretely, the country, realm, kingdom, kings, reign, royal.
All right, so it's the king's reign. All right, so the king's rule, the king's realm. So that's a kingdom. So if we're living in states and countries that are not identified as kingdoms, all right, we're not living under the rule of a king whose head is the Most High. All right, we're living under somebody else, and their head is somebody else. All right, and if it's not the Most High, we know who that is. All right. So we're going to go to kingdom etymology.
All right, it's the definition here of kingdom. It's a noun, plural kingdoms. A country, state, or territory ruled by a king or queen. Quote, the kingdom of the Netherlands, unquote, and synonyms, realm, domain, dominion, country, land, state, sovereign state, province, territory, empire, principality, palatinate, duchy, a realm associated with or regarded as being under the control of a particular person or thing, quote, the kingdom of dreams, unquote. Synonyms: domain, province, realm, sphere, field of influence, dominion, area of power, department, territory, field, arena, zone, orbit. Second definition here: the spiritual reign or authority of God, the rule of God or Christ in a future age, heaven as the abode of God, and the faithful after death. And the origin, it's all English, synonym, kingship, seat, kingdom.
All right. So we're at number 2 definition, the spiritual reign or authority of God. As we've been saying, this is a kingdom. When you're hearing kingdom, think of the authority of God. All right. That's what's in the area. And somebody who God appointed is there, and God is over that person. So you're in the kingdom of him. All right. And we have we have the future world where we have a king who's going to be our, who's Christ, the Most High God. And then we have the Most High who appointed him and who's over that. So that's how the kingdom is coming about. All right. So these are all foreshadows of the kingdom. All right. The Most High has been making people see foreshadows of the kingdom by having a king there and then the Most High reigning over them. All right. Which that was Christ. Christ is the King of Kings. All right. And now Christ, when he reigns, his head now is God. All right. So it's coming into play on how the kingdom comes into play. And now we're in the kingdom of God. All right. Where Christ is the king, and we get now that he's saying there's another father, right? Because the only way he could be a king is that he got appointed by God, okay? So we're seeing it all come to play, all right? So for us to go into the kingdom of God, he had to show us this is how a kingdom's set up, all right? Foreshadowing that. You have a king who's set up by me, and I'm over him, all right? I'm okay with that. And everything will be beautiful because I'm okay with that individual. Now, he has his son there, Christ. So this is why it's called heaven now, because everything's going to be beautiful, all right? The condition, the weather, everything is crispy because he is totally okay with this individual like no other individual before. All right, so he's not going to bring about disasters. None of that's going to be there. All right, this is why it's the kingdom. It's the heavenly kingdom. All right, so a kingdom, king's dominion, all right? We're not living in that in these times. We're living in states. And we're going to see that states are somebody's state of mind, what somebody means, all right? These are companies, corporations, which move away from God. These are soulless, all right? So we're going to go to how the change came from heaven's mandate to election.
In China, they call it losing the mandate of heaven. After several centuries of experimentation, the West has solved the mandate problem. Popular elections, even communists are now learning, are the only enduring source of political legitimacy since the demise of the theory of the divine right of kings. There has been one exemption to this rule. Communists have established another rather singular form of legitimacy, namely revolutionary legitimacy.
All right, so in China, China had a lot of the mandate. This area had the mandate. They had, they have their emperors and things of that nature over in those regions over there. All right, for a long time where they understood that. A lot of our people were over there too. All right, when they're dealing with what is that thing that they bring? It's like the Ark. All right, but they have all those things that symbolize the kingdom. Where our people went over into Asia as well. All right, but they called it losing the mandate of heaven. All right. And they said after several centuries of experimentation, the West has solved the mandate problem. All right. How did they solve the mandate problem? They said, we don't believe in the divine right of kings. All right. So now they don't believe that a king is divinely been made and put into place. That now gave opposition to them going against kings now and to now go into the way of setting up elections. And they said a new way of it, revolutionary legitimacy. So no more legitimized by God, but we're doing revolutionary legitimacies, and this is what brought about republics. All right, so we'll use one example: Selassie in Ethiopia. All right, this is one of the last monarchs publicly the whole world went down in their country. All right, so he's a king there, And the people, revolutionary, all right? Revolutionary warfare happens there. And they revolutionize and they go against him, and he has to now leave and depart. They now take down Ethiopia. They build up the Republic of Ethiopia. This is all things you could go see. All right. And now there's presidents in Ethiopia. All right. Because they ran the king out, and there's no more kings in Ethiopia. All right. There's only a president there now, when that was a country that always had kings. But the people there rebelled against the king. All right. We're going to show that the Most High foreshadowed all of this. All right. So revolutionary legitimacy is what people do now. So that's what they're trying to bring about in America as well. So they're trying to use the black folks to bring about a revolutionary legitimacy to overthrow that Christian empire that was there. All right. And that's what the other nations are trying to attempt. We're going to go to 2nd Ezra 15 and 4.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, starting at the 14th verse. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power.
All right, so it shows here, woe to the world. All right, so this is a warning. And them that dwell therein. The sword and the destruction is drawing near unto you. All right, why is it drawing near? All right, the people are standing up and they're going to fight. And that's what we're seeing, the revolutionary legitimacy. All right, people, revolutionary legitimacy is all the people. That's the people fighting. So they're like, you know what? Why are we giving the king power? We could fight. And now we could go and claim land and claim the next land and next land, set up a constitution. That's what you've seen in Corsica. All right, he's like, yo, we could do this. And then we could write our own constitution now. All right, and do things of that nature. And this is why over here, these constitutions are kind of different, because these were attached to God. These are people who are like, all right, these people want a constitution. Let's try to put God stuff in them. You go to a next republic, it's not set up under God like that if it's not attached to Christian people, all right, coming from the queen, things of that nature. All right, you're dealing with foreign republics now, all right, and they're trying to bring in their way of life, like China, different places like that, all right, where their laws is not governed by the Heavenly Father that we know from the Bible, like how America is governed from laws from the Bible, like Canada is governed from laws from the Bible, because they broke off from a monarch, all right, but they still believed in their Christian rights. They just didn't believe that they should have a head over them, and that's the beginning of failure. All right. So continue. Oh, no. We're at now. All right. So it brought a time where people were going to have sedition among men, and they're going to be invading one another, and they're not going to regard the kings. And this is what we're speaking about with the last example I used about with Selassie. All right. Even right now, the queen, she's queen over here, but people don't really respect her like that. They don't regard her like that. She has the power, but if you ask people don't respect that power like that. She would have to influence some or show some power for someone to be like, oh, she has power. They don't even believe that she could throw them in jail. All right. Pretty sure people walking around here like, I don't know if the queen can just throw me in jail like that, like right off the street. But she's queen. She can. All right. So we're going to go now to the Bible, where this is where the beginning of this starts to happen. All right. We're going to go to St. Matthew 12:22.
It's the book of St. Matthew, chapter 12, starting at the 22nd verse. Then was brought unto him one possessed with a devil, blind and dumb, and he healed him, insomuch that the blind and dumb both spake and saw. And all the people were amazed and said, Is this not the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. And Jesus knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand.
All right. So everybody comes to the scripture, but they're not really grasping why he would say this, right? And he's saying this is because the Jews don't know that this is their king. This is your king. This is the beginning of calling the king evil. All right. So Christ the king is here, and they're calling him evil. And he's trying to show them, hey, I'm a king, you know what I mean? But you guys don't understand it. But it's not really for them. This is for us in the now, really. understand an overview what he really was saying here. All right, which is, hey, I am the king. This is your kingdom. You calling me the devil, this is the beginning of your kingdom being destroyed, which it was. All right. You calling your king the devil is the beginning of your kingdom being divided. All right. So you calling the queen the devil, anything like that, that's the beginning of the kingdom being divided right there. This is the example he's showing. You calling the kings devils and evil is the beginning of your fall, because they're tied directly to God through the mandates, through all what we're seeing. So that is the beginning here. And this is what he's showing. All right, continue.
Verse 26, and if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand?
All right, and he said, if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall the kingdom stand? So he's trying to show that work that the king is doing. He's doing good work. So now when we look at the kings and the way they operate, a lot of the things is they're binding the evil. So that's why they have this power. If you really look, they're binding evil people, and they have that authority to bind right away. All right, that's what they're doing. That's why people don't like them, all right, because they're quick with the judgment, all right? They have access to full power to bind you real quick. All right, anything, you say anything wrong, but people, the way they're trying to project it now through movies, through this, is that these kings are operating in a way that, I'm just going to throw this guy in thing, I'm just going to throw that guy over there. You get what I'm saying? That's how they're trying to make it seem. And even in today's time, they're trying to do that, because I've been taking in what we know U.S. is controlled a lot by the Jewish. They were trying to make it seem like the Muslims and them, they're just outright bad, or you get what I'm saying? Outright thing. But I'm like, whatever they're doing, the Most High is allowing that to happen. They have their oil, they have all of that. We've seen that the Most High allowed Abraham's sons to have princes and things of that nature. All right? So this was, the Most High already knew that they were going to have their princes and things of that nature and their money and all of that. The Most High is okay with that. All right, and once again, by the mandate of heaven, the Most High governs whatever they're doing. So whatever they're doing is all the Most High is over that. And it's people outside of that. We don't have no images. I'm trying to see. There's not a lot of images. And there's just a lot of hearsay. And the U.S. was trying to put a microscope on them to say their kings are doing this and that, because they want to overthrow that monarchy over there. They want to say that that shouldn't be a monarchy. All right, it should be a republic. The people need a republic over there. They're tyrants. They're doing this over there. They use their, you know what I mean, their sovereign power like this. All right, they just take it away from you like this. They're tyrant. This is the image that the world has been trying to portray on kings and things of that nature. But when we're looking at the scriptures, we're seeing totally different. And we're seeing how the Most High, we're dealing with Egypt. We're dealing with Egypt's king. If we're talking about any heathen nation, we're talking about Egypt, the most one that the Most High uses as an example, especially with Israel, and not to be like the Egyptians. This Egyptian king's heart had to be hardened. So if we're even talking about, oh, the Muslims over there, they're bad. Yes, they're bad. But the person he put in place is good to control them and has a heart to control. And the Most High showed us that by showing us the Egyptian king, all right, which would be likened onto a bad heathen nation. Now, that king still had a good heart. All right. So we're going to go to, continue first.
Verse 27, and if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God is come unto you. Or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man? And then he will spoil his house. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. Wherefore I say unto you, all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto men, but the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit shall not be forgiven unto men.
All right.
Verse 32, and whosoever speaketh a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whosoever speaketh against the Holy Spirit, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world, neither in the world to come.
All right. So it says, if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, that the kingdom of God has come unto you. All right. So you're supposed to know that the kingdom has come unto you. All right. Overshadow of the kingdom has came unto them because the way that the kings were binding up the evil. All right. People were supposed to understand that. People that did understand at that time. That's why they were okay with the kingdoms. All right. Until this recent time. All right. But he says, or our house can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, then he will spoil his house. So he's given a mystery here. Before Satan could come in this realm and kingdom here and begin to work his tyrant and to take them down, he has to bind the king first. He's the strongest one in the house. All right, so the first thing he does is now, the people go against the king now, and the king now is binded up. Once the king is out now, he has full dominion to spoil the goods, do what he wants, new constitution, president. This is the beginning of desolation. This is what we're seeing. All right, he's strong. He bind the strong man. We went to these things and showed that the king is given all power. All right, supreme power, absolute power. That's the strongest man in the house, in the kingdom. He's binded up. There's nothing they can do. And this could even be an example of the queen. The queen right now, so much people hate her. She come outside. Who knows what's going to happen to her? All right. So now she can't even get to the people. She don't have social media. She don't have no outreach to the people, to connect with the people. She's at a deficit. All right. So she got a crypto on what you're going to say because you're bind up in your own house. Because Satan's running loose out here doing whatever you want to do now. All right. So this is what he's showing us there, right? And then he goes on to the bottom part here. This is all about king here. This whole part here is all about kingship on the earth, first being an example from Christ. Then he says, he that is not with me and that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. So if you're not dealing with, monarchy and trying to bring people to a monarchy type and kings and things of that nature, then you're against the Most High. You're scattering abroad, all right? And then he goes on and says, all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto men, but blasphemy against the Holy Spirit shall not be forgiven. Whosoever shall speak a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven of him. So this is what he's trying to say. And we went through this at the beginning of the monarchy lesson, that they understood that all kings in the earth were called sons of God. All right, because they were a foreshadow of Christ, the Son of God. All right, so they called the king Son of God, being that the God has chosen this individual, anointed him, and now that's God's son. That's what they understood it as. All right, and these are a foreshadow of Christ, who's the ultimate God's son. All right, he's actually God's son. All right, now you could speak against the king, who's God's son. All right, but to speak against what the king is doing and all the works that the king is doing, that's speaking against the Holy Spirit. All right, because you're seeing the king. To talk about the king is different. To talk about the king's works now is the Holy Spirit. All right, so that's like we're going to talk about, we're going to see, look how this place is set up and the laws. We're going to look at all of this and see God around here and see God controlling things. And then we're going to say this is the devil. All right, this is what you're doing. All right, this is what Christ was trying to show the Jews was doing here. All right, so they start to speak against the king who's known as the Son of God, who deals with the mandate of heaven, chosen by God. All right, and all that he's doing is by the Spirit. So now if you talk about the things that he's doing by the Spirit, you're talking against the Spirit. This is the blasphemy that's going to happen. A lot of blasphemy is happening because how people talk about the kings and the works that they're doing, all right, in these kingdoms. So we're going to go back to the kings were called the son of man. The sons of God, all right?
Ancient Chinese historians would also later say that only because of the mortal credit accrued by Wen's reign was it possible for his successor Wu Wang to finally conquer the Shang dynasty and establish the long-lasting Zhao dynasty. Indeed, the Duke of Zhao described the mandate of heaven along with its mortal obligation to the conquered Shang people, and so explained the reversal of their fortunes in the following terms in his announcement of Xiao. Quote, august heaven, high God, has changed his principal son and has revoked the mandate of this great state of Shang. When a king receives the mandate, Without limit is the anxiety of it. Ah, how can he fail to be reverently careful? Heaven has rejoiced and ended the mandate of this great state of Shang. Thus, although Shang has many former wise kings in heaven, when their successor kings and successor people undertook their mandate, in the end wise and good men lived in misery. The king should have reverent care of his virtue. Look at the former peoples of ancient times, the Shia. Heaven guided, indulged, and cherished them so that they would strive to understand what heaven favors. But by this time they have let their mandate fall to the ground. Now look at the Xiang. Heaven guided them, stayed near them, nourished them, so that they would strive to comprehend what heaven favors. But now they have let their mandate fall to the ground.
All right, so they're showing you all these kingdoms over there in China. Once again, I showed you China. If we're going to deal with any empire, this empire knew about the mandate coming from heaven. And we see what they're doing with now. They shredded their mandate. They're not dealing with no mandate over there. This is the beginning of that, all right? We see that their government, their communism, we see all of that right now. There's no mandate from heaven over there operating, all right? But this is the beginning of it falling down. It's passed down to one people throw away the mandate, and Most High gives it to the next people. There's no one over there using the mandate like that, all right? Continue.
Now a young son succeeds to the throne. Let him not then neglect the aged and experienced. Not only do they comprehend the virtue of our old men, nay, more, they are sometimes able to comprehend counsels that come from heaven.
All right, so they're showing this is now a young son who succeeds the throne, all right? And they say he's not going to neglect the age and the experience, all right? Not only do they comprehend virtue of the men of old, all right, but they even sometimes know the counsels that come from heaven. This is what they're saying. They knew that these kings, they understand God and what heaven favors. They're connected up there when the people are not, all right? Continue.
Ah, even though it be that the king is young, he is heaven's principal son. Let him be grandly able to be in harmony with the little people.
All right. So they understood he's heaven's principal son. All right. This is what they understood the kings to be. This is heaven's son. This is the son from heaven, the kings. All right. So this is what the Most High is speaking about here. All right. Christ was speaking about here. They were calling heaven's son evil. And that brings on blasphemy, because now they're talking about the works now, and not him directly. And he's tied closely to the works. So if you talk about him as a person, that's different. When you're now talking about the works, now you're gone to the spirit. All right. So we're going to go to John 15 and 18.
It's the book of St. John chapter 15, starting at the 18th verse. If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you.
All right. So the world hate you. The world's beginning to hate kings. All right. The first king the world hated. All right. This is the first people that people start to hate their own king. All right. This was the Jews. This is the beginning of that. All right. People use this for being a believer of Christ and things like that. But this also falls to kings. If they hated Christ, who is the Son of Heaven, how much more will they hate kings? They will hate them. And this is what we're seeing, a hate for kings. All right, continue.
Verse 19. If ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hated you.
All right. All the kings hated right now. Why? Because the Most High chose these kings out of the world. That's why. So when people see their lifestyle, how they are, as knowledge started to advance and people start to realize, wait, this guy has all that power, all that money, all that this, all that that. If you're not part of God's kingdom and understanding why that is, now you develop a hate. People shouldn't have that. This is a tyrant. This guy's a dictator. You're dictating everything. You're dictating my life. You're doing everything for my life. You're controlling me. This is what people start to do because knowledge starts to advance. They're starting to get, wait, this king has too much power. But you're supposed to understand the Most High gave him that, and he's doing the things of the Most High to have everything in order. Now, people will say they don't hate kings, and this is because people are prideful. Everyone want to be a king. In everybody's mind, they're all kings. Okay? I'm a king, you a king, everybody a king. All right, but they don't understand what a king is. This is why we're doing this lesson. If you're not have that full authority and power, all right, over a dominion like a king, then you're not a king. All right, and people don't like kings because they don't like to be controlled by other individuals. This is what the problem is in this world. All right, continue.
Verse 20. Remember the word that I have said unto you. The servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. But all these things will they do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me.
All right, so once again, they persecuted Christ, the king. They're going to persecute the other kings. All right, and why are they doing that? Because they're not understanding this is from God. All right, same way the Jews couldn't understand that their king was from God. This is the beginning of people not understanding their king is from God, okay? And going against it and calling them the devil and then being controlled by the devil, okay? This is the beginning of that. Because everybody else at these times respected their kings, all right? The Jews, the first one to disrespect their king, to kill their king, to spit on him, do all these things, whip him, bloody him up. This is the beginning of doing this to your king. This is unheard of doing this to your king. But they didn't believe it was their king based on all their stuff that they had, all right? Or else they would never do that to their king. All right, so this scripture specifically, we like to use it for Christ and believers in Christ, but this, if there's anybody that this is going to go to, it's going to be the kings who's in the image of Christ. They're foreshadows of Christ. All right, so we're going to go to where did the left, liberal, and the conservatives originate? All right, so the liberal is what they call the left, and conservatives are the right. All right, right wing, left wing. All right.
Today, the terms left wing and right wing are used as symbolic labels for liberals and conservatives, but they were originally coined in reference to the physical seating arrangements of politicians during the French Revolution. The split dates to the summer of 1789, when members of the French National Assembly met to begin drafting a constitution. The delegates were deeply divided over the issue of how much authority King Louis XVI should have, and as the debate raged, the two main factions each staked out territory in the assembly hall. The anti-royalist revolutionaries seated themselves to the presiding officer's left, while the more conservative aristocratic supporters of the monarchy gathered to the right.
All right, so here we see, all right, the summer of 1789. All right, when members of French National Assembly began drafting a constitution. So now they're like, okay, we got to draft a constitution. Everyone's in the room now, and the delegates are deeply divided over the issue of how much authority King Louis the 16th should have. All right, why? Because I just said people are getting smarter now. They're like, okay, before they just been like, oh, let's proceed, but now thought is in it. They're like, hold on. So you about to have this? Okay, so that's gonna be under. Oh, that's under your control. Oh, that's under your control too. Oh, that's under your control. That's under your control too. Okay, so what could we? Oh, I can't really do nothing. All right, this is where the problem comes. They're like, hold on, wait a minute now. All right, what's going on? All right, said the delegates were deeply divided over the issue of how much authority the King Louis XVI should have. All right, the debate raged. Two main factions staked out the territory in the assembly hall. So kind of like what we see in the in the January there with the whole marching going to the what was that? Capitol Hill. All right, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to show that we're not against this. We're on the other side. So this is going on in here. In the room, though, it's happening. All right, and they now split the room for the first time. And we notice the Most High that made this happen naturally. Anti-royalists went to the left, okay, and the conservatives stood at the right. Like, they're saying this is an actual event that happened, but we know that the Most High, this could have easily they went to the right, and the other one went to the left. Well, this is the law of nature, has to show. All right, so the anti-royalists, anti-revolutionaries seated themselves to the left, all right, while the conservative supporters of monarchy are gathered to the right. So those who are right-wing always are supporting monarchy, which they're going to always be supporting God's point of view, than the other side. All right, so that's what the first thing we have to understand, that the right side, and we're going to get to what they are actually called in a second, the right side, conservative side, Republican side, they deal with the Most High's thoughts. All right, they're trying to get as close to there as possible that they can, while the left side is the ones that, hey, we're not with the Most High. All right, completely not with him. They're against who we put in place, and once he said you're against him, you scatter it. All right, so continue.
The divisions only continued during the 1790s, when newspapers began making reference to the progressive left and traditionalist right of the French Assembly. The distinctions later vanished for several years during the reign of Napoleon Bonaparte, but with the Bourbon Restoration and the beginning of a constitutional monarchy in 1814, liberal and conservative representatives once again took up their respective posts on the left and right of the legislative chamber.
All right, so here we're seeing that they started to go and assemble a constitutional monarchy. Now we're understanding why they got to that point, because people are like, yo, this is too much control, this is too much this. They're making a constitution, so now they made a constitutional monarchy where the king allows some power to drift out over there. And he's like, you know what? All right, you guys can have this society here and have, these heads of parliament and these people here and have your own institution where you guys are governing your lives, but I get to oversee it, all right? And I get to collapse it if anything happens. But I'm not really interfering with your day-to-day. I'm gonna allow you guys to make this law, that law, and kind of just guide it. Unless it gets real bad, they step in and they could, take everything out. But usually they're allowing the people to live their life, kind of separate from the monarch and kind of make their own rules and not everything come from the monarch. That's what these constitutional monarchies are, all right? We're dealing with the monarch, but we want some of this power. So we're seeing how it came there. They're all at the thing and they're like, hey, you're going to have to loosen up some of this power. They came with a way that, you know what? All right, the king still is a king, still has full authority, but he trickled on power in agreement into these constitutional monarchies where he allowed a governor general and a parliament to operate and the people to elect and do things of that nature while the monarch is watching and could collapse it at any time. All right. Continue for
By the mid-19th century, left and right had entered the French vernacular as shorthand for opposing political ideologies. Political parties even began self-identifying as center-left, center-right, extreme left, and extreme right.
All right, so this all started from France, all right? And now the parties became identified as these, so left-wing, right-wing. And now they're even labeling this up, so center-left, so it means they're, they're not all the way left, but they're kind of, going to the left way. And then they have center-right, all right? We're right, but we're not all the way right. All right, then you have extreme left. Like this person's all the way to the left, all right? And we're hearing this right now in the news, extreme right. So when you're hearing right now over the news, they're plastering extreme right wing all over the news right now. That should be alerting you that people are going against God right now, because all in the news are like, you should call them terrorists. They should be called terrorists. That's what they're pushing now, that these extreme or right wing people who come from monarchy and representing monarchy and dealing with that ideology and thought and trying to preserve all those rights and stuff, they're now calling these thoughts and trying to vilify it as evil. That's what they're doing in the news today, all right? So you're hearing a lot of right wing, not left wing. You're hearing right wing, the aggressors, the evil ones, the terrorists. Apparently to them, the right wings did a terrorist attack in January. Okay, this is what the world we're living in right now. Continue for us. Oh, that was it there?
No.
Oh.
France's left and right labels filtered out to the rest of the world during the 1800s, but they weren't common in English-speaking countries until the early 20th century. The terms are now used to describe the opposing ends of the political spectrum, but their origins are still evident in the seating arrangement of many legislative bodies. In the U.S. Congress, for example, Democrats and Republicans traditionally sit on opposite sides of the House and Senate chambers.
All right, so they still have this representative today. So this started in France, and this is now trickled out into many different nations. All right, this is even in what we call America. All right, Canada, things of that nature. All right, so we're gonna go to Canada's Conservative Party. All right. And its original party. So we're going to go to an example of Canada's Conservative Party. We just went and gave you the French and even trickled down to the Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. We're going to give a little of Canada.
The Conservative Party was the founding political party of Canada, governing for the first 29 years after Confederation.
All right, so this is the original party, all right? Because people are like, all right, we don't want to do the Queen. We're dealing with the Conservatives. Conservatives are still people who are dealing with monarchy principles. God is at the forefront of these people's minds. All right, for 29 years in Canada, that's the ruling party. All right, continue.
Since then, the party has not been as electorally successful as its rival liberals.
All right, going back to where Christ said, "Hey, the world love you. All right, the world hates you. All right, because He picked them out of the world. These are people that are dealing with God." People of the world, more they grow, the more they go and dislike them. People of the world hate conservative ideas. They're like, when you hear conservative, you're like, yo, someone's gonna bore me to death. All right, these people are weak. And a lot of times too, they're like, oh, these people are what? White places. All right, because these are the Christians of this thing. All right, they're the ones heading the crisis church as our people are asleep. And now we're awake and we're coming to the forefront to help them. But what can they do? Our people are asleep. All right, so they have to institute these principles and stuff. And then our people who have left-wing minds and they're wild, they're not attached to God. They come in these areas and like, oh, these people are doing this and they're doing that. And so they don't understand what these people are protecting. All right, continue.
The Conservatives have had periods in power and long periods in opposition. The party has been most successful when it was able to assemble a national coalition of analophone Conservatives from the West and Ontario and nationalists from Quebec. Its current leader is Aaron O'Toole.
English speaking. Analophone is English speaking person. Okay. A coalition of English speaking conservatives from the West. All right, national. But they have to get national. So this is where we're going now. This brings us to what we're going at. Nationals are free people, all right? They are people who have constitutional rights. They're attached to the Constitution, which means that they agree with God's laws. They're usually pointing out their God-given rights. All right. The world has been expanding the civil side. All right. Civilians, all right, are the ones are able now to vote, and they're voting out the rights. All right. They're voting out the right-wing people. So for the right wing to always get power, they have to go back and get national people who understand their God-given rights is in upholding the right-wing people who deal with God. And this is where we're at, where not enough national people are being born today and being recognized. And more people are being asleep, and they have more of the slaves having babies, all right? This is why they want a lot of babies to happen, because they gave the slaves the rights to vote, and now they're making them mass produce children and things of that nature. All right, and now they're getting right to vote. Now they're weakening, and now they're like, you know what, to stop that, we know that these people will go to jail and stuff. So, you know what, we'll catch them, all right? So we'll allow them to think, but guess what, you go to jail, lost your right to vote. They're going against that now, all right? This is why you have LeBron James, all of them now, hey, voters oppression, okay? Meaning that, someone in jail, someone came out, he was a prisoner or something. Let's try to get him the right to vote. He deserves to vote too. All right, let's try to get his thing expunged off the record and allow him a right to vote. Where before, once you're a criminal, can't vote. All right, because how can you now choose between whose heart is right? This is a big decision. You're removing God from choosing whose heart is right. So once you're a criminal, you can't choose who God is right. That's what they're saying.
But they're making bad judgment. You end up in jail.
Right? So you can't choose which man's heart is right now. That's why that election is taken away from you. And going back to our people weren't allowed to vote because they're blinded from Christ. They were carnal men, natural men, as the world calls savages. Once you're not civilized and operating as a unit to bring about one goal, one idea as a nation, then you're uncivilized and you're barbaric. That's what they call it, because you still haven't comprehended the need for everybody to be in unity and work together. So how can they let these people now vote as well? So that's why they wouldn't let our people vote. Incompetent to vote, right? How can you vote? How can you say this person's heart's good when you don't understand law, nature, nothing? All right, so they weaken these things now to wow, these people could vote, and they're voting in Satan's power. This is what's happening in the world. All right, and we're seeing that clearly. So this is why they always have to go, if the conservatives or the right wing is going to rule, they have to get nationals. People who be like, hey, this is my God-given right. This is the Bill of Rights. This is the Constitution. Those people defend that side, all right, while the other people are controlled opposition. All right, so we have, I guess people won't be able to see here, but we have a chart or a picture here that shows the left-wing ideologies and right-wing ideologies. I'll kind of just go through it real quick. So we're seeing the left-wing government, all right? They deal with, the major things they deal with is communism, labor, Democrats, and parties, all right? They have a thing there where they have, on the chart, it says they interfere with your social lives and society. So they believe that they should be interfering with people's daily lives, all right, and governing it in certain ways and having them do certain things, all right? Which you would believe that the tyrant, the other side, that would be more on theirs. But we're going to see if it's on theirs, all right? But so far here, these people believe to interfere with your society and social lives, all right? They're on a progressive nature, all right? So they like to be progressive, meaning to change things from the way it is, all right? So sometimes that could be good, but a lot of times that could be bad, because you want to change from the way things are originally set up into some new formulated idea, all right? Looks into the future, all right? They deal with idealism, equality. So people will be like, equality sounds good, all right? But all people aren't equal in the eyes of God, all right? All people are not equal, but they're trying to make everybody equal. Everybody equal.
Human rights.
Human rights, because you're a human, you know. If you're a savage, you're a savage, okay?
You're a slave.
You're a slave, okay? No, everyone doesn't have equal rights, but this is what they're trying to do. Bring everyone on the same level, equal the playing field out.
It's not equal in heaven, so it's not going to be equal on the earth. Thine will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
And to our minds, it sounds good. Like, yo, everything should be equal. Especially to the slave's mind, who's like, yo, I'm a slave right now. Black people like, yeah, equal rights. You got LeBron James, we want equality. Equality. Of course, the slave wants equality. All right, he wants to be treated equal too. But you're not being treated equal for a reason. All right? So these ideologies sounded good to the people who are not connected to God and understand why these things have to happen. Now we even understand, because we didn't understand why these things were, but now as we're getting closer to God, we're like, hey, these things are needed. This is why this is the way it is. All right? I guess they like to have architects, media, they're heavy on media, things of that nature. So they like to control aspects that is going to bring down Christianity, all right, and the power of the Most High. So their religion, all right, it says scientific, non-organized, unconventional, all right. So that's their religious belief. So that's where you have Scientology coming, because they're dealing with science. So when they make a decision, they're not like, oh, you know what? It's the Most High. God says this and that. Let's go to the Bible, this and that. They're like, all right, science is saying such and such and that, and they only govern off of that. All right, innovation, they don't look at to what's morally right and morally wrong, and let's now base our science and research off of that. They're just like, yo, how far can we push this thing? How far can we go? All right, we're going to push the envelope. Their religion, they deal with scientific, non-organized, unconventional rights. Others must be reserved. Others must observe. Criminals, social economic victims. Homeless, trodden down victims of the system. So they believe that the homeless are trodden down and they're victims of the system. We're now realizing, hey, a lot of people that's homeless, guess what they want to be? They want to be homeless.
They want that.
Okay, so they're not victims. These people are not victims here, all right? Especially when we're like, hey, wait a minute. Doesn't the government get them money every month? Doesn't the government give these people money? What are they doing? All right, you're doing stuff with your own stuff. All right, you don't want this. You're not a victim. God has given you the enable, the power, all of that to get what you need to get. All right, there should be no reason that you're outside on the ground doing all of that when there's all these avenues. Some people, that's what the life that they choose to live now. They get used to that. You go outside, they don't even want some of your stuff no longer. They don't even want your stuff.
Remember I told you about the story there. A woman was trying to help a homeless man get a job, and he was by a can, not a dumpster, like the oil drums, and the fire is going in like later on in the night, and he's like, "Yo, come back later. He's busy." So
they don't want that. All right. So they want equality. Equality is a level playing field. So they want a level playing field for all. There shouldn't be no people that the Most High has favored and put them and gave them more power than some. All right, everyone should have an equal playing field. Freedom is freedom from power, abuse, and equality. All right, so freedom is from power abuse, which they're saying the kings were abusing their power and the kings weren't being equal with everybody. All right, this is what they're using. So they're trying to spread that. So this is where this left wing promotes equality a lot. You're always going to hear equality with them because Satan is trying to take over by, once again, taking away the power. Christ said, yo, the first thing you got to do is what? Bind the strong man. So bringing equality is making people all the same playing field, all right? Binding up the strong man, making him the same strength as the other people. All right? They support gay rights, abortion rights, war, tax cuts, same-sex marriage, God, unmarried sex. So we're going to go through some. So they support gay rights. We see that. When the left is in control, they're dealing with gays. We have, in America over there, Biden came in now. Now he's like, yo, the transgenders could join the army and stuff now. All right? We're seeing the transgenders now able to go and join the sports now. I just seen two transgender men go into women running.
They're dominating.
Dominating. All right. Their career was finished. All right. Now they're rejuvenated.
They couldn't do it as a man.
All right. So this is what we're seeing now. This is live and direct. Abortion rights. So they're dealing with abortion. A lot of that.
Yeah, no, continue.
War. So they deal with a lot of. We just seen right away. Trump is like, yo, why? He did things that he had to do, all right? So when he did what he had to do, it was an immediate, clean job. Everything was, We're now seeing, right as Biden get into play, already bombing now, all right? They deal with heavy wars. They always want to deal with war. Who else deal with war? Obama. Obama did a lot of wars. Most wars came through Obama in recent history.
They want to talk bad about Trump, but when it comes to HBCUs, historic black colleges and universities, do simple Google search and you'll see how much money that Trump gave to them in order to help their schools. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk about that, though.
Mm-hmm. Tax cuts. Okay. You're like, oh, tax cuts. Why are they promoting tax? Because tax cuts is to take from the greedy people who don't want to give so that they can invest into the nation. All right. This is why the government had to tax you. Christ came and showed people tax. God has tax. It's called a tithe. All right. Now the tax is the tithe, and the tax is the minimum someone can give. So God has to be like, yo, if I didn't put nothing, you wouldn't have gave nothing. What? No one's supposed to be just giving the minimum. It's higher than that. After the tithe now and the tax, that's now an offering now. Okay. So, and we can look at it as this now, because now when the government comes now, they're gonna be like, all right, this is your taxes. All right. Taxes is never of a benefit. This is what they must take from you. If they didn't take that from you, you wouldn't have gave that to them. All right? Now, after that is offering, where people are like, you know what? You took this tax from me, but here's my donation too. All right? Now they're like, oh, this person, we don't have to tax you now. We'll lean it up a little because you're offering as well.
And that offsets their taxes.
That offsets that now as well. So God's like, you know what? Hey, here's some more benefit to you. And this is a foreshadow of God, where God said, if you're offering to me, He give back to you. All right? So they're like, oh, you offered outside. No problem. Here's back to you. Like I told you I would do. I'll give it back to you. All right? But people look at the tax. The tax is just the minimum that someone can take. So we have a lot of people. Now, we have to remember, most of these people are not dealing with God. So they're not loving, they're not giving. Giving is a God trait. They're not giving. They're not trying to help the poor, the sick, the widowed. That's not what they're trying to do. They're being evil with their money. They want to keep all their money. So the Most High has to put together a system where people who understand the Most High, like, you know what, these people need to be taxed so that we could get something out of them. The minimum at least. And that's how taxes come about, where taxes is supported by the monarchies, because they're like, yo, these people who are sinners, who are not a part of it, people are part of the church, they naturally would do this, because this is a law first in the church about tithe and offering. But now you're dealing with a world now, a constitutional monarchy, and now they got to hide it in their laws now. We're like, all right, here's the tax. And you're only looking at the tax part. But the benefit is when somebody donates on top of the tax. And that is what's called the offer. You went on your own and offered this, which is called a donation. And now you get some of your tax relief back. And that's the Most High showing you. You do this with me, you'll get the same thing back. This is just the government doing that with you. But the Most High told you he would do that with you first of all. All right, so that's a little understanding on tax and offering. All right, that the tax is the what you have to take from greedy people. The tithe is what, basically the Most High said, you weren't going to do it anyway, so I have to put that, this is what you must do. The benefit comes now when somebody goes to the other place, to the offering. Now that offering, even with the government, they see you do that, that's benefit for you. All the business people, they're like, yo, I'm offering, I have this thing, I have this charity, I have all of that. Why do they want that? Because they're greedy. Greedy people is like, this is the thing. If I offer it to them, I'm getting back. God told me this. So if I'm greedy, how much more should I do this so I can be more greedy? That's why they do this. All right? Yeah. And they're getting this because they're understanding of money. People who don't have this understanding of money, they just end up being greedy and don't give. They're like, yeah, they don't see it. At least the businessman knows, hey, this is a business proposition. This is a business move I'm making. It's the best business move I can make. Right? Why get penalized? All right? So the left wing promotes cutting of taxes. All right? Because they're like, wait, why should we invest in this and that? And, why should I be helping the mothers, the sick, the widow? Why should you be getting some of my things? God told you that in the Bible. All right. So they deal with fairness, helping those who cannot help themselves. So they believe that people that cannot help themselves, which we're showing everyone can help themselves. All right. So we'll go to the next side now and show a little of the right wing. So the right wing, all right, which they call Republican, conservative, nationalists, they're traditional. All right. So they deal with things traditionally. All right, so they say they like to look to the past. So they like to be like, hey, look at the things of old. All right, like the Most High says. All right, always look at the days of old. Look how the Most High dealt with back in the days. The left side is more on, look at the old, brother. We're forward to the future. To the future, all right? Not to the old, not to the things of old, and look what the Most High did to this person, that person. Hey, we're innovative. That's the past. This is the future. Things could be different in the future, all right? That's their mind state. All right, so we see these people look to the things of the past, all right? They like to conservative nature, all right? So they have a conservative nature. Their goal is for everybody to have economic freedom. All right? Their support is from the employers. All right? And they deal with a lot of free trade. All right? Where they believe you trading and you working and making trade, that brings back a lot of benefit from the country. So they're heavy on people being trade. So they just don't like to hand you money. If you're going to do a trade, then they'll hand you money. So that's the problem where it was coming with black people, where black people just wanted money, and they're like, we'll give you money if you're going to do these businesses. Okay? They just want money straight to do what they want to do. All right? That's not the way this world works. They're just trying to tell you that you doing trades and businesses, this is what's helping the economy. This is what helps us. All right? This is what makes you self-sufficient. This is what brings you to economic freedom. Giving you something does not make you go to economic freedom. All right, giving this person the food every day. You got to teach them how to hunt. Teach them how to trade. These things is what's going to bring you economic freedom. Not giving you a lump sum of money. That's only going to be, it's going to run out sometime. For your children don't know how to trade. All these people are going to go down. The money's going to go down eventually. In contrast to being able to build up. Like Asia understanding trading. That's why they're big right now. All right. So with them now, what they came to do, what they're doing in America now is taking down America's trading. All right, because trading once again is powerful. This is the right side. So America, they don't deal with a lot of trade no more. And this is why the term came out, everything in America made in China. China took away a lot of their trading and their manufacturing, which weakens the country. All right, so this is a left-wing thing to be like, hey, these people deal with this trading and thing. We destroy that. We can get people, we can control this thing more now. All right, so this is trading and stuff is a right-wing idea where they believe that you should work and you should build these things. All right, so their community, their society and culture, they deal with a lot of community based on morals. All right, and they have preservation. Their biggest thing is preserving the world, preserving the things that God has put forth here. All right, protecting the good things of the world, whether it be family stuff, nature, anything like that that has to deal with the olden things and the way things are supposed to be. This is what they're heavy on. All right, and they're big on the adult being self-reliant. All right, not dealing with people. All right, they're dealing on tough love. All right, so they deal with a lot of tough love. So once again, the left wing, all right, they deal with a lot of, look at their family thing, all right, nurturing love. Just nurture them. Don't beat them. Don't smack them. What is that doing, all right? This is why people can't beat their children no more in these countries.
Yeah, if they feel like they want to, be a boy or be a girl, even though they're not born like that,
Let him alone. He's just fine. You got
If he
Dwayne
wants to
Wade
play-
there.
if
Look
he
at
wants
my
to play with
girl
dolls,
boy.
let him play with dolls.
Side of religion.
Yeah, my girl boy. Look at my girl boy.
My girl boy.
He's fine. They just need love. They just need love.
Just show them love.
We're on the next Republican side. That boy would have got his ass whipped if that father found out.
Yeah.
You almost died. All right, he almost died that day. All right, so they deal with tough love, which the Most High deals with tough love. The Most High punished Israel. Deuteronomy 28. He tells you how he'll bless you if you're good, but if you're bad, he got something for you. Okay? So tough love is needed. We went through tough love to get here. It says tough love instilling strength. That's what it does. Relationship built on respect and fear. That's what it brings. Now you respect them because you fear them. All right. Now the child self-reliant. Shows the child deals with self-defense now, because now the child knows, hey, you got to be strong to defend what's right. All right. You've been getting nurtured your whole thing. You never see no opposition to power. You're just like, yeah, let them go. Oh, I got to wear a mask. Oh my God. Okay. All right. People are like, oh, you got to go. You got to pay $3,000 to go into the hotel. You can't go to your home. No one's there. No police officers there. No gun drawn. Nothing. What is this going on right now?
I saw a video. The man had a lint roller. I think it was in the UK, and he was just standing up in front of stores, and he's like, he wasn't even talking, just like, and everybody was just, and he's just rolling their clothes with lint, but they don't realize. I don't know what type of conditioning that is. It's not good, but it's just the conditioning of a lot of people where they don't ask questions. There's no thought. Just do as you see.
Mm-hmm.
Don't question anything.
Nothing. Okay, no self-defense. Why? They weren't taught that. They were taught nurturing love, never to stand up for what they believe and just, okay, all right, we could work around this somehow. All right. Nah, that's not how the world works. That's not how the world works. All right. So, but this is what the left side wants. All right. The right side is hard press.
You see, that type of behavior and mentality, it creates people out there, and they end up getting bullied. But then the same ideologies that they have, they're going to be like, don't bully people. But you're creating people to get bullied.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just saying accept everything.
Mm-hmm. So we're clearly seeing what's going on right now. All right. So we're back on the left side real quick. So they're a self-nurturing child. All right. Being built on respect and trust. So respect and trust me. You know what I mean? I'm all right. You could trust me because you're never going to expect me to beat you. All right. Do anything. So you know exactly what that parent's going to do. You can trust that parent. All right. And now the child is self-nurturing. And the child is dealing with openness and empathy and self-examination, where now they examine themselves, they're like, you know what? I don't like the way I am right now, or I think that I was meant to be like a woman.
Yeah, I was born this way.
I was born. They did it with a lot of self-examination, and they're dealing with openness to it themselves too. So that they even see, because some people are like, all right, something might be wrong with you, but you're like, you're still gonna stay on the side or something. They're not like, you know what? I'm gonna just be real with myself.
Be free when they come out and just show on the wig.
Maybe because I'm not getting a girlfriend, it's because I need to change sides.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that. Maybe I'm open to trying the next side and just seeing what happens. This is the thought that they're giving.
They don't have no good defense system whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's not good to be open just in general, because any demons or thoughts and ideologies, especially if you send them off to school, you're setting them up for a potential nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
This is like basically building your house on sand with this type of ideologies there.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go back to the right side, all right? So once again, self-defense, moral strength, self-discipline brings about a self-reliant child, all right? Builds character. The child becomes self-reliant, all right? They become police, military, stockbroker, business, judge. These are the things that these people become. All right. Their religion, theistic, organized, conventional. Their rights, others must not interfere with people's rights. So the right side deals with, you're allowed to live your life as long as you're living it according to these natural laws. Go ahead, do what you want. The other side, they make it seem like, I'm open, I'm okay with your thing, but at the same time, they're going to take away your rights. Because they're all in your business now. Because they believe that one person shouldn't have power. So once you don't have power, that means you don't have power over your own thing. You don't have full power. No one should have full power, they believe. Someone should have equal right. That means someone should have equal right to take your child. If you don't have the full power, when did you get full power? That's going to be under the system, we can take your child too. Not because you're the parent, you're not going to be a dictator of your child's life. That's what they're doing right now. You're not going to be dictating your child's life. You got to let them be open with stuff.
Be free. Be
free. And if the school finds out about that, guess what? The child's like, hey, my dad, they don't want me to be too open. They're going to be like, this is oppression. This is this is that. Now you're going to have to battle out in the court to see who really has control over the child. So this is what the equal rights brings about. So everyone has equal opportunity to your child.
Just going into the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is discipline. Just look at the jobs here. On the right-hand side, police, military, stockbroker, business, judge. Those type of jobs and professions, they take a lot of discipline. Mm-hmm. It's a no-nonsense approach when it comes to those type of jobs there, in comparison to what they have on the left.
Mm-hmm. Media, architect, because they love to create and stuff. That's what these, because they have a lot of feminine trait. All right. Professor, scientist. All right. So they like to do things with the future, and then a teacher, because they like to teach you these wrong things.
I saw a video where I guess it was NASA. I don't know if it was a conference that they were having, but apparently they have some recordings now what they received back from that they received back from Mars. And if you heard it, the man was like, close your eyes and just imagine you're on Mars, and we're going to play the audio. And it was just a bunch of static.
One of the next side, the left side's ideology, inclusive, multicultural, evolving. So they're inclusive, so they like to be inclusive, multicultural, so they deal with, no one culture runs here, all right? This is a multicultural area, which brings about a problem, all right? As the right side deals with nationalistic thoughts, all right? Which means that the person whose country this is should always be at the forefront, should always be the person who's having more advantages than the other individual. Their culture should be the culture that's brandished the most in the country. When you go into the stores, their culture should be right in your eyes, because that's the national culture. We're in a multicultural place. They're trying to cater to a bunch of different cultures who are from different places. You don't have a history here. So why does your culture have power here? How can this culture keep its culture if we're allowing its culture to be diminished? then it's looked at as, oh, they're being racist. And they like to, and this is what the other side is doing, all right? The other nations, because they're trying to make it seem like white people are being racist when they say this should be a white-controlled country. Our people lost that right through the Most High. These people are dealing with Christianity. If they lose them being overheads over here, then Christianity loses. This is why they're saying they have to be at the forefront of this. They can't allow a next nation, black people who are not dealing with Christ, Chinese, Indian, to come over here and control over here. Christ loses. God loses when that happens. We just had over here in Canada almost an Indian man about to be prime minister with a turban.
On the Breakfast Club too.
All right, and he used what? He tried to urbanize himself, go do videos, dance, make him look like, he's trying to cater to the black people, the urban people, to get their vote so he could come in. All right, no Indian man gonna be president in China.
Wearing the turban.
Wearing their turban too. No black man gonna be president in China.
Hell no. Hell no.
All right, not even white man. Go look at this white Chinese president.
Look what was going on when COVID was at its peak last year, and they had migrants that was from Africa. They basically kicked them out of their houses and they wanted them out of the country because they're blaming them for COVID coming into the country.
So these are the things we're faced with right now. All right. So, all right. Criminals choose to be criminals. So that's their belief. Criminals choose to be criminals. You chose to be a criminal. So they treat you with, such regard. All right. Harsh treatments. All right. Criminals, on the other side, they're social and economic victims. All right. So they became victims because of the economy and their environment. All right. I'm even from those environments, but trust me, the heart of me made me not do what other people do. You choose to do these things. There's a difference between I have to feed my family than starting war. You're outside, there's a difference. There's people who are hustlers and all they're on is making money. And there's people who are criminals and they're dealing with, brutal violence and things of that nature. Someone who's hustling, meaning, I just sell a lot of things. I sell clothes, whatever to do to get whatever. That's a trade. That's a good person. Or somebody who's going to rob, steal, this thing to do that. And they're robbing and stealing because of what? Because they're saying they're economic victims. No, their state of mind is to do that. All right? Because if they could put the same power into going outside and working for that, doing something for that, hustling for that, a grind, something. But they chose to be vigilantes and violent criminals. All right.
Victim mentality.
So homeless, their idea, the right wing's idea of homeless is they have no worth ethic and no sense of shame. All right. So they don't want to work for what they have and they have no shame. All right. They have, because they're going to be outside and you're going to hold the thing. You have no shame so much you're going to hold that thing outside and say, yo, you know what? Whatever job out there is out there right now, I'm going to get that and work that. And work that week, whether I can't bathe that week or not. I'm going to go there, and then from there, a hotel room, something, grind starts from somewhere, ground zero, and build up. Only God builds from the bottom and goes down. You got to start from the bottom and come up, man. All right, so this is what these people are doing outside. All right, so no worth, no sense of shame. That's why they're now outside handling that thing, and then they have us out there. Oh my God, this is what comes with no understanding, right? The right wing understands their nature. So now we're even understanding. How can we help these people outside? This is what they want to do.
Yeah, they don't want to help themselves. It's that victim mentality where it's always a pity party. There's no accountability. It's, like, it's different here, at least being over here in Canada, and we're young black men over here. And the things that we have to face in comparison to somebody that doesn't have our skin color. We could have that mentality and, the world is against me. But do you believe in God? If you believe in God, how did you get such a mentality? Why are you following those ideologies and principles? You're not a victim unless you want to be a victim.
This is what's happening, all right? And we used to be like that too. Because naturally, when you're looking, you're like, oh my God. Why are they out there? That's your natural. If you're not brought to understanding and wisdom, then you're naturally going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so, how did you get to here? And when you're not looking at, this person really look at their life, how they are as a natural, this is how they got here. That's what they're saying. All right, and it takes a change in work ethic and showing them these things to bring about a change. So the other side will be harsher on them. We'll be like, we're not going to pity party you. We're going to bring you along and change that inside of you. All right, whereas the next side, the homeless are trodden down victims of society. All right, now there's the left side's ideology of society is one for all for one. So we should all be one for all for one, and everyone help everybody. Right? Which sounds good. All right. But according to the Most High says, go look at the ant.
That was sluggard.
Okay? He's trying to show you. You got to understand how to bring things in. The right side is survival of the fittest. All right? Only the fit will survive. Be fit. All right? So the right side as well, opportunity, equality is opportunity. So you have the opportunity to be equal if you come up in society, if you do this, if you're baptized under Christ. Okay, that's the main one that they're hiding. All right, you have opportunity to do these things, to be equal. You have opportunity to come up. All right, they say freedom is the chance to achieve or fail. All right, so you have the opportunity to achieve or fail in something. That's freedom. But which is best? Freedom.
Immigration control.
Immigration control. All right. So the other one, big one on immigration control. Why? Because if it's the kingdom, the Most High is making sure everybody get into the kingdom of God, or he has strong immigration. The Most High has strong immigration. I believe there was a grocery store that put out there in their thing. All right, in their advertisement, they got they got a lot of backlash for it. But they said that even what we call the kingdom has borders. All right, the kingdom has gates and immigration control. And that's what the news or the grocery store put on their newspaper flyer. All right, but the kingdom of the Most High has gates, all right, and it has strong immigration laws. You're not getting into the kingdom of God like that if you ain't got your stuff right. All right, so we see when the right side controls immigration, they're kicking that out because if you bring in immigration, you're not bringing down the national power. You're allowing other cultures to come into the society and take down the original society that's there. Every society should always be controlled by those people whose culture it is. When other people go there, they're supposed to be just visitors and observing their culture. That's what it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to go over there and be like, you know what? I want my culture to be here too. Where did we start doing that?
Build up temples and everything.
Build up temple over there and all of that. You're supposed to be like, yo, I want to go visit how these people are in their country and see it. Now, I like how they are over there. I want to be among them and see those sites. That's how immigration is supposed to be working. Not, yo, I want to go over to your country. Now I'm in your country. I like your country. But you know what? I want to change it up. I want to change culture. I want to bring my stuff over here. That's not how society works. These cultures will disappear. Cultures got preserved by making sure they stayed national and making sure that, yo, when it comes to foreign people, there's only a limit they could do in their land. All right, so the ideology that, yo, we should be letting in multicultural people, giving them right to vote, giving them citizenship right away, this is beyond crazy. All right, and this is how over here is getting taken down. All right, so the right side upholding order, helping those who help themselves. So if you're going to help yourself, they're going to help you. All right, they're big on getting strong role models. All right, they're big on champions of opportunity. You give them an opportunity, guess what? I'll work that opportunity and I'll make something of that. That's what they're on. Heavy workers. All right, they vote for aggression, militancy. They want weapons, war. They know that what? You have to defend what you want. You got to defend that. You need your weapons. You need all of that. This side promotes that. All right, the Most High said what? Christ said what? Sell your what? Get your what? So he's trying to show them that. You need your weapon. All right, so these are the ideologies of the two sides that we see is not, this is how the world is getting its play right now. The right side is dealing with the Most High stock. But if you're not looking at it with understanding, you're going to be like, this side is the bad side. And the other side is the good side. All right, so we're going to go into the definition of election.
It's the definition for election. It is a noun, plural, elections, a formal and organized choice by vote of a person for political office or other position. Quote, an election year, unquote. Synonyms, ballot, vote, poll, referendum, plebiscite, general election, local election, popular vote, straw vote, poll, show of hands, voting, voting in, choosing, picking, selection, choice, appointment. Antonyms, voting out, the action of electing or the fact of being elected, quote, his election of the House of Representatives, unquote. The origin, Middle English via Old French, from Latin election, from elegere, pick out, see elect.
All right, so voting, a formal and organized choice by vote of a person for political office or other position. All right, so this is who people be voting for, these two sides. All right, now this side, right side, is close to the Most High, but they're still a little falling away because they already said they don't want to deal with a king. They don't want somebody over them. All right, but they're still close to the Most High because they're the first people that said, hey, we just don't want a king. We just want to do this. And now when you give people that other opportunity to vote and do other things now, they create a next side that they're going totally away from God. That's why it's called left. Because you're not, Most High is the right side. If you're going away from God, then that's the left. You're going to the left. All right, so the people who, now, hey, they got a little window of opportunity, they're gone to the left, and now the right side created a problem here. They created the left side. The right side created the left side. All right, by allowing, not dealing with their head and allowing these laws, all right, the Constitution to be a little lenient and not having a king with absolute power, they gave power to the wicked people to start a party, which is called the left. All right, and now they got to deal with that party because this party is gonna, what we're gonna see, they turn big, they turn massive, they're innovative, they're all of that, they're new school. The other side is old school. All right. So election means to pick out. All right. So under the republic, people have rebelled against the monarch. And this is how we got to a republic. And this is how we trickle on to power losing. And now we have a left side created where people have now gone away from God and created a left side. All right. Give us how the elections come from monarchy.
Elections have been the usual mechanism by which modern representative democracy has operated since the 17th century. Elections may fill offices in the legislature, sometimes in the executive and judiciary, and for regional and local government. This process is also used in many other private and business organizations, from clubs to voluntary associations and corporations.
All right. So even with this, like for instance, in the church, it's not really no election, all right? It's appointment. Now, people got appointed. There was no show of hands or vote. That's not what happened. The Most High appoints someone, then the other person appoint and appoint and appoint. Appointments going on, all right? Where the person's using divine understanding from the Most High and to bring about how these people got there. And whenever they did need to appoint somebody, they gave the show of hands to the Most High. All right, they didn't cast a vote. They would, what's it called again?
Cast lots.
Cast lots, okay? Meaning they're giving the power to the Most High. The Most High governs, chants, all of that. He runs that. So if something gonna happen today, we're not choosing. We're gonna have this thing here, we're gonna pick out, and the Most High gonna choose who it's gonna be. They always knew it's better to give Most High the choice. That's why even sometimes people are like, you know what? We just roll the thing. Yeah, roll the dice and the Most High choose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Flip a coin real quick. All right, the Most High's telling me that. That's an old school thing, whereas you're just doing it yourself. But then some people will do that and they're like, you know what?
I don't know.
when you go against that, something bad usually happens. All right, you should have just went with what you see. The Most High tried to tell you something, but you didn't like the answer.
Yeah. Even if someone has used that, they'll have an understanding of predestination and know that the Father has control.
Mhm.
Use that too.
So this is why they were doing that. All right, so in it came time to bring in another disciple, and they didn't know. They gave that choice to the Most High through the Most High's own election, not their own election. All right, but these people are now elected on their own. All right, continue.
The universal use of elections as a tool for selecting representatives in modern representative democracies is in contrast with the practice in democratic archetype. Ancient Athens, where the elections were not used, were considered an oligarchic institution, and most political offices were filled using sortition, also known as allotment, by which office holders were chosen by lot. Yeah, sortition is the act or an instance of casting lots.
All right, so the same thing. So most people was using that before. All right, so let me go to the next word, oligarchic. Get that one too.
The sortition and cleromancy. Cleromancy is a form of sortition, casting of lots, in which an outcome is determined by means that normally would be considered random, such as rolling of dice, but are sometimes believed to reveal the will of God or other universal forces or entities.
All right, so like I was saying, this is why they would do that. I didn't need to look. Right away I knew that. I didn't even know this is something new I'm learning in the thing. All right, but you know that one time this is the casting a lot. Their voting system was, the Most High is gonna elect by doing this, casting the lot, giving it up, as they say, to chance or to God, more so than somebody else giving their own system and them actually voting. All right, that we're not supposed to do that. We cannot really make that decision. We can't. Who else, if you have God there to hang on, why not ask Him? All right. So we're gonna go to the next one,
Oligarchy. To rule or to command is a form of power structure in which power rests with a smaller number of people. These people may be distinguished by nobility, wealth, education, corporate, religious, political, or military control. Such states are often controlled by families who pass their influence from one generation to the next, but inheritance is not a necessary condition of oligarchy. Throughout history, oligarchies have been tyrannical, relying on public obedience or oppression to exist. Aristotle pioneered the use of the term as meaning rule by the rich, for which another term commonly used today is plurocracy. In the early 20th century, Robert Michaels developed a theory that democracies, as all large organizations, have a tendency to turn into oligarchies. In his, quote, iron law of oligarchy, unquote, he suggests that the necessary division of labor in large organizations lead to the establishment of a ruling class, mostly concerned with protecting their own power.
All right, so this is what we're seeing here now. Everything's coming into play now. All right, so with the democracy comes oligarchy. All right. Let's see if we can get that.
Wow, I have to pronounce that.
Yeah. Oligarchy. All right. With that comes oligarchy. And then with oligarchy comes, with the democracy comes oligarchy, which is the ruling rich start to rule. All right. And they start to create a understanding with them all, because people are thinking, okay, we're all equal here, but this ruling class now has came together to say, hey, we're now gonna bind our thoughts together to make sure our interest is always put in place. And they kind of cheat the system that's supposed to be okay. It's just supposed to be random. What all of us believe is what comes in when we all vote. We all have our own mind state. When these people are plotting and have their own system in place, and they're the rich now.
To help out their own.
Mm-hmm. To help out their own. And this is what we see now, where we have the rich people who's controlling these places,
but then they'll publicly say that they're for all and equality.
Mm-hmm. But they're liars. They're not dealing with God. What do you expect from them? They're going to lie to you. All right. So that was some good understanding on the casting of lots and the oligarchy. All right. So they're saying their elections were not, the elections were not used, where the elections were not used were considered an oligarchy. All right. So when elections were not used, they were considered an oligarchy institution. All right. So where it's rich people operating and controlling everything. All right. And most political offices were filled using sortition, also known as allotment, which we went by casting of lots. So we're going to go to the definition of democracy.
So definition for democracy, it's a noun. A system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. Quote, capitalism and democracy are ascendant in the third world, unquote. Synonyms, representative government, elective government, constitutional government, popular government, self-government, government by the people, autonomy, republic, commonwealth, and antonyms, tyranny, dictatorship, a state governed by a democracy, plural noun democracies, quote, a multi-party democracy, unquote, control of an organization or group by the majority of its members, quote, the intended extension of industrial democracy, unquote, the practice or principles of social equality, quote, demands for greater democracy, unquote. The origin, late 16th century, from French democratie via late Latin from Greek demokratia, from demos, the people, plus kratia, power or rule.
All right. So we see here democracy, a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of the state. All right. So they're all the whole population is a part of the government. All right. Representative government, constitutional government, self-government, government by the people. So this government is not a government of God. This government by the people, where the people are governing themselves. A self-government, a republic, a commonwealth. So all of these commonwealth places, they are opened up as republics. All right. So they were going into Queen, and she had to open up now all these places because all these people were fighting for what? They were rebelling, independency. Wars was happening. So to get the wars from not happening, people not losing their lives, they came up with this idea of allowing a constitutional monarchy, meaning it's a monarchy, but the monarchy allowed them to have a constitution, all right, and to set up kind of like a democracy that's being watched by the monarch, all right, which is all oxymoron. Doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to do that? It's only going to bring about a problem. All right, but they're trying to, once again, bring about peace. You can't continue in the world if everyone is at odds with everybody. All right, so this is why they did this. All right, and it brings about a dictatorship. Or no, the opposite is tyranny or dictatorship, which they're trying to tie those words onto monarchy. All right, so we're going to go to the etymology of the democracy.
All right, this is democracy, the etymology of democracy. It's a noun. Quote, government by the people, system of government in which the sovereign power is vested in the people as a whole, exercising power directly or by elected officials, a state so governed, unquote. 1570s, from French, democratie, from medieval Latin, democratia, from Greek, demokratia, quote, popular government, unquote, from demos, which means common people, originally district, see demotic, plus kratos, rule, strength, see crazy. Sometimes the 16th to 17th century in Latinized form, democratie in 19th century England, it could refer to, quote, the class of people which has no hereditary or other rank, the common people, unquote. 19th century US politics, it could mean, quote, principals or members of the Democratic Party, unquote. Democracy implies that the man must take the responsibility for choosing his rulers and representatives and for the maintenance of his own rights against the possible and probable encroachments of the government which he has sanctioned to act for him in public matters.
All right. So once again, all right, democracy, government by the people. All right, system of government in which the sovereign power has been vested in the people. The people have taken the sovereign power away from an individual and put it into themselves. Every individual equally has that sovereign power, equality. All right. So they've invested all this power, sovereign power, into the people. All right, either directly, where they could go, all right, they could deal with it directly themselves, or they chose elected officials. So like, all right, we don't want to deal with this. We elected officials to choose it. But anytime they feel like they're doing wrong, they're supposed to take back their sovereignty. And now that's when you see the war happening. America always had that where, hey, you guys have the right to bear arms, whatever. If the government acts up, you have the right to take back your sovereignty and go to war, right? They have the same sovereign power. Everyone has that. So they're allowed to go do a militia and take it back. All right. So then it goes down to the 16th century, 17th century, the Latinized form of democracy. It can refer to the class of people which has no hereditary or other ranks. All right. They're not kings. They're not anything like that. All right. This is common people. So this is common people government. Common people who don't have understanding, don't have education. They are controlling government. They are the heads of government. This is what a democracy brings about. Which is why now you're like, why are these people, they're voting these people and they don't even understand them. When you ask these people anything about the new, anything about history, they don't know nothing, but yet they have the biggest voice when it comes to these new stuff. Shouting at the TV, they were talking, saw it, and they don't know nothing what's going on. But they have the power to choose based on what they see. All right, so this is out this book called Word Magic, The Powers and Occult Definition of Words, Piao Chang.
All right, this is an excerpt out of Word Magic, The Powers and Occult Definition of Words by Piao Chang. In a society where the people are ignorant and irresponsible, democracy is one of the worst forms of government. The word democracy comes from the Greek word demos, which means common people. A group of common people can also be called a mob. One of the origins of the word cracy is the Latin word cratia, meaning power, might, rule, sway, power over, a power, authority. Based on these occult definition, democracy means mob rule. In a democracy, the voting power of the majority overrules the rights of the minority. For example, if a man were on trial for not believing in God and 51% of the people in the room were to vote that he should be hung, that man would be hung for not believing in God. In a republic, his free will and natural rights would be protected. Do you understand now why democracy means mob rule? This is why in a society where the people are ignorant and irresponsible, democracy is one of the worst forms of government. Today, most people in the United States and throughout the world are ignorant and irresponsible, which is why it is easy for the dark magicians of the New World Order to enslave them under their democratic government. Do you understand now why the US government is always talking about spreading democracy throughout the world? Democracy is just another form of communism, except that the people have the privilege to vote. However, their votes do not really matter because the voting system is rigged. Keep in mind that a privilege is not a natural right, and therefore it can be taken away by the government.
All right. So this gave us our understanding on what democracy is. All right. It's people who are ignorant and irresponsible who has sovereign power in making decisions, which is very dangerous. They're ignorant and they're irresponsible. They should not have any deciding powers in a form of government. But this is the type of people that Satan want to use to overthrow government. And this is why we're at where we're at right now. And just look around you, all these people who are choosing these sides, they are people who have no sense of understanding. And they're irresponsible because they're not making sure that they know these things before they choose these things. And we're landing into these big problems that we're at. But let's not put away the fact that this is all a result of the republics who went away from the monarch, and they opened up the opportunity for these people to have power and decision by saying we don't want one person with power and decision, let all of us have it. Not understanding that there's going to be people who don't deal with God who now you gave power to. Satan is using them. And that's called the left side. All right, so with that being said, I want to say all praises be unto the Most High Almighty, Ahai Yeshua Christ, for bringing us the understanding of monarchy, republics, and democracies. And I hope everybody got a clear understanding of how we're reaching to how we got to the point we are, how these people got their ideologies, how there was a left wing and a right wing created, all right, and how people are going away from God, all right, and this is the going away from God, all right, that the Most High showed us, Christ showed us from him that people were going to start to go against the kings of the earth, from first dealing with his own people, all right, and that they would start calling the kings devils and wicked. And this is how it's created a system of government that we see now, where Christ said, if I chose you out of the world to be kings and this and that nature, how much so these people are going to do the same thing to you. They're going to hate you as well. And we're seeing the hate for kings, monarchs, and the right side, all right? And we're seeing the poison that the left side brings in and the ideologies they bring in. All right, so we're going to read Philippians 4 and 8.
It's the book of Philippians chapter 4, starting at the 8th verse. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you.
All right, so all those things that was listed in there, all those things were associated with the right side. Now, if you're dealing with the right side, the peace of God shall be with you, because you're thinking on all those things. As we see, the left side is thinking on totally different thoughts than what Philippians 4 and 8 is situated and stating here. All right, the right side is thinking on those things, and they want to make sure the peace of God is with them. But to correct that, they must come to monarchy, and we must have a king over us. All right. Once you don't have a king over you, the nation is dividing itself. And that's what Christ was showing when the Jews did not want him to be their king. They divided their kingdom. They got taken down by Satan. Satan was able to come into their empire and take it down for good. All right, so with that being said, we want to say all praises be unto the Most High Almighty, Ahai Yeshua Christ. Hope everybody enjoyed the Sabbath report, SAS lesson today. Hope you enjoy your Lord's Day tomorrow. All praise be to the Most High for that day as well, that day of worship. This day is a day of rest, so I hope you guys are getting a lot of rest in, and tomorrow do a lot of devotional readings, whatever you got to do, but tomorrow is a worship day. Today is a rest day. All right, so that being said, this is the Essene Community Church of Christ. I'm Archbishop Shamar.
I'm Bishop Barak.
All right, and if anybody out there that needs to contact the church or wants to be a part of the community, please hit us up at our email. Once again, administration@EsseneCommunityChurchofChrist.org. All right, blessings to you all, and have a good day.